Good morning, everyone. I hope you all had a great start to the day and are having a good time in Amsterdam, like me. Just kidding. We don't have a lot of slides to cover, so do not get scared right in the beginning, quoting that this is yet another implementation project, a boring implementation project presentation. My name is Akhila. I am an IT SME at Unilever, working for global supply chain platform, mainly in the transportation sector. So I have been in Unilever for over 5 years now, driving projects and new capabilities in the space of OTM for markets like Europe. As a part of this, today I and my co-speaker, we are here to talk about Project Infinity, which we will definitely give more details about shortly. I will pause for a moment and let my co-speaker introduce himself.
Hi everyone, this is Satyam. I'm into OTM for around 13 years as of now. I'm assisting Unilever with different solutions, implementations, and connecting with different third-party solutions for like around 7 years now. This is one of the projects we have implemented for Unilever, and this has become like a good project in terms of financial savings or the automation. So we are briefly going to talk about Unilever, then going forward we will talk about the technical part of the solution. So Akhila, please continue.
Sure. So to begin with, I will start talking about our organization content, and then I move on to talk about what Infinity is, followed by Satyam talking and discussing about why we have done it, how we have done it, and also the business outcome that we have achieved by implementing this project. Everybody here, almost all of you know what Unilever is, yet I'll just take some minutes to talk about it. So we as Unilever are one of the world's leading suppliers in terms of fast-moving consumer goods. On any given day, there are about 2.5 billion people using Unilever products. We have a portfolio of about 400 different products that are spread across 190 countries. I'm sure among you there are a lot of people who must be familiar with some of the products that I will show in my upcoming slides. These are just some facts about it. We have achieved a turnover of about closely 70 billion last year. 70 billion euros last year. And then we have about 128,000 employees that are working across different countries. Like I said, there are over 400 different brands. Most of it could be some of your favorites as well. Then let me just talk about why we have done this project, right? When you go to a store and you definitely tend to pick some of your favorite products, each time you go to a store, what we would like to ensure is that the products are rightly available there. How do we do it, right? You go to a store, you pick the products, and then come back without getting disappointed. We as a supply chain platform, we manage the entire backbone of the processes and applications that begin with right from procuring raw and pack materials to manufacturing to warehousing and finally to delivering it to our customers. Let me just give some history about our logistics space. It was about 12, 13 years ago when each factory in each region handled the transportation separately. It had its own demand and supply. We then led this journey of implementing OTM by consolidating transportation planning across various control towers. So today, all these control towers, they plan over 5 million shipments per year. We have 5 different OTM boxes, namely North America, Latin America, AR, Fusion, and Europe. And different kinds of products are being manufactured in our factories. They all revolve under beauty, well-being, home care, ice cream, nutrition, personal care. Okay, now coming about what infinity is, right? As the term rightly quotes by itself, it's something which keeps on running and it never ends. So infinity is an initiative where we have rented out our trucks and drivers for a certain period at a mutually agreed monthly rate, instead of paying them for each and every shipments for point-to-point shipments. Now, to quote you with an example, an infinity loop could be from San Dizier to Bergen-op-Zoom, and then from there to Heilbronn. Now, what happens is there could be some products getting manufactured in San Dizier, where our trucks will go to the San Dizier, pick some goods, load it into their boxes, and then travel from San Dizier to Bergen-op-Zoom. In Bergen-op-Zoom, they can either unload the items that they've picked from San Dizier, or what they can do is they can also load some of the items from San Dizier itself and finally deliver it to Heilbronn. Now, in Heilbronn also, what could happen that after unloading the items that it has picked from San Dizier and Bergen-op-Zoom, it can unload there and then load the items that Heilbronn factories produce and then get back to the San Dizier factory. Now, this entire loop can run at any number of times on a day or on a weekly basis, and hence it could be an infinity loop example. Let me leave the floor open to Satyam to discuss about why we have done it and how we have done it.
Yep, thanks, Akhila. So, yeah, just to add some more context to this, if we just go through what's written on the board, Infinity is a logistic initiative. Rightly said, this has been initially came from the business directly. So it's not a new approach as such. Business-wise, it's a standard practice, I would say, that business sometimes do not want to always go for IT solutions, and they do have their historical approaches where they hire trucks themselves instead of having shipments, point-to-point payments. So they hire truck, let's say, for a monthly rate, and they just manage it on the Excel. So that's what they were doing for over the years. Of course, while you do things manually and they go beyond a certain threshold in terms of volume, you lose the edge in terms of you cannot be efficient, because you can only look to a certain derivative, like towards this many number of days in past and future, in terms of how you plan it or how efficiently you bundle it. So that's one aspect. Another one, the cost savings were not very clear in terms of when business was doing it manually. So business wanted us to, automate this solution. They just had an idea, but they wanted us to come and have more insights to it and tell us how we can do it in a way that they don't lose the original thing, which is still the renting of trucks. They still want to have the control on contractuals, but they still want to make it an automation in IT. And that's where they wanted OTM to do something with this. So that's why we have done Infinity. And like Akhila mentioned clearly, Infinity, as the name suggests, it's about a circuit. So what we are trying to make in this project, we want to reduce the empty miles. Objective is always 0, but we always have a threshold. Let's say you want to pick it maximum within 100 kilometers or within 200 kilometers. So let's say one shipment ends, another gets started. Reduction of that empty mile is the target here. While we are running the truck, we want it always full. We don't want the truck empty. And that's what we are going to achieve in the coming slides. Okay, so of course, it's manual stuff. It is not everywhere. So since we are having OTM running for Europe for almost 10 plus years, there are still lanes which are not very seasonal in terms of, for example, there are lanes which is not having much contracts available. So we used to have spots on those lanes. Spots, as we all know, it's expensive. High cost contracted. It's similar to spots, so you don't have many carriers operating on these lanes. Although the terrain is manageable, and if you have your own truck, you can manage through that, but somehow the contracts are not available, and the ones you're getting are high costly contracted. And the third one, let's say seasonal demand. So there could be terrains where you don't have demands across the year, let's say seasonality wise. For example, you have ice cream. You might want it in a particular season, the demands goes high in certain region, you don't have much contracts there. So yeah, these are the test cases. So in all of them, if you see, we are talking about cost, and per shipment cost, if we are doing, it's expensive. So what business was doing, instead of completely replacing per shipment, they were having the shipments built. They're trying to kind of, make a circuits, weekly circuits, where they are combining shipments manually, removing them from the existing carriers, and trying to run this whole circuit by themselves in the rented truck. So they always used to do it manually. They were doing Excel-based calculations, trying to predict weekly and monthly savings on that. So all of that was the reason what we have done. And these are the particular examples for which we thought the Infinity is going to be a perfect solution. What this is? 1 second. Yeah. So like I was just mentioning, the objectives, why we wanted this project, why business wanted this project. Like I just already touched upon the empty miles reduction. So as a FMCG, you are paying to the carriers, and even though you're renting a truck for a monthly basis, you want to save fuel, because Unilever is running thousands of miles. I think in the previous slide it was there. We are traveling around 1.2 billion kilometers every year, and we do thousands and lakhs of shipments every month and every year. So the moment you talk about any kind of reduction in the empty mile, you're saving cost, and you're also saving CO2, which is also one of the industry's standard recently. So few of the noted examples are, like I spoke about empty miles, truckload utilization again. While the business was doing it manually, they can only see shipments to a certain date in past and future. Let's say they know that this is the weekly volume, this is what is planned in OTM, but they of course cannot just navigate through each and every shipment. So what they do, they typically recall the memory that, hey, on a daily basis, I'm going to have this shipment from A to B. So I'm just going to think about it. But what if there is certain new shipments come in that particular time period, which he's not aware of? So he wouldn't actually try to pick those shipments in the circuit. So that's where, even though they were doing it manually, there was a ask that we could utilize it more. We could do more efficient bundling, and then we increase the truckload utilization there. Next one, process automation. So like these are very efficient business users. You don't want them to spend time on the system. You want the system to do it automatically, and they can focus on better KPIs. And they can give us more solutions, so more suggestions that how you can make it better. So that way, process automation was one of the point. The moment you achieve these three, cost saving is a derivative. So if you're removing the empty miles, you're doing the better bundling, you are removing the manual work, you are efficiently doing cost saving. So that was the ultimate aim. Everybody want to save money. So we had the ultimate of cost saving. And the last, while I'm saving it, how do I calculate it? So again, like I mentioned, they were doing it manually. So we had a last ask, which is to give them a report, which automatically tells them this is a weekly and monthly savings. So instead of they going to paper, trying to figure out all the savings, we are telling them that this solution, without doing any manual work, with just the IT solution giving you this much of euro savings on a monthly basis. So yeah, these were some of the objectives. Okay, moving on. Okay. So while we were trying to build this solution, certain inputs were actually coming from business itself. Of course, they don't want to lose the complete control. So although they were doing things on the Excel, they wanted us to give them control over the solution. So the ask was, let's say they can still have a screen where they can put filters. Now, when I say filters, the movements in Europe typically happens in two ways. Let's say we can have a team driver setup, we can have a single driver setup that defines how many hours and how much kilometers you can run in a day. Of course, the cost is different and the contracts are different, but they want to have that control that I will tell you that for this particular setup or for this particular route, you're going to have a team driver, you're going to have a single drive. Other than that, there was also an ask that I will tell you which is my first shipment. Maybe circuit will tell you something different, but they would want to have prefer customers. So let's say they want to pick that this customer has to be the first one. So that's another one. And of course, one more filter, let's say we have is when I'm going to start my circuit. So let's say the first shipment, when it's going to be picked up. So all of those they wanted to still fill in. And for that, we have provided a dedicated screen. Some of the other features of that screen could be like you can tell me which carrier you want to have for this route, or what is the source of that route. So all of these things, we have created a screen. Of course, I'm going to show you more in the coming slides in technical way, like in OTM, how does it look like. Then we have already picked the big workbench. So like what Jim was saying in the initial presentation today, at the Unilever, at this moment, we do any IT project in OTM, we always try to incorporate at least one workbench. Because workbench, one, it gives you ultimate visibility in a way that you don't have to ask your users to go navigate through order release and shipment differently. You want one screen for everything. So workbench definitely is a great add-on, which is done by Oracle, and over the years they have become very fast and reliable. So yeah, we have taken a workbench for this whole solution. That's our base, which is what the user uses for everything. Single click link to the shipment. That again, while user is doing all this selection and everything, I don't want him to go and select next shipment every time. So if I would have been asking that particular thing for the user, I would be using OTM's feature like continuous move, where you can actually select shipments and it does the same thing. But what they have to do here, they just take the first shipment, click on a button, and REST system does everything. It selects all the new shipments for the whole week. It shows you how much it's going to travel. It makes sure that the travel cost of all these shipments is lesser than the combined travel cost of the contracted one. So let's say if you are building 4 shipments in a week, which is by the system, and those 4 shipment which system is picking is going to have a combined cost lesser than the 4 individual shipments contracted cost. So that also is one of the thing which system keeps in mind. And robust KPI mechanism, we have created reports and we have created FTI templates as well, where we generate how much savings this whole process is going to get you. These savings, of course, are derived from the system. Sometimes they do not consider the claims and all, but of course, they are to an extent the correct KPI savings when you would have done this point to point, and we are doing by the system as a circuit. So yeah, these are some of the rules we kept in mind while we are developing this system. Okay, so I think I already spoke about the planner input. So how our whole flow, so like until now we spoke about like how this mechanism looks like on ground on our paper, but how does it look in OTM, like OTM's flow? So it starts with the planner coming to a workbench where he selects a shipment. In the next slide, we are going to have that workbench sample also, but I'll just take a minute to speak about what he does. So he selects a shipment. He tells the system that this is my first shipment for the route. He also tells the time of arrival for the first stop. So he's telling that this is the start of that week. So it could be any day, it could be any time, and from that on time onward, system try to make a circuit for number of days. We call it weekly, but it's again a simple thing, like you can just tell the system it's 10 days, it will make a 10-day circuit. So we have tried to make it weekly circuits. We have given 7 days there. One of the most important feature in the selection process, which I'm going to talk about, is the driver type. So like I mentioned, we have team drive, we have single driver. We also have driver breaks and the weekend breaks. So for example, Europe follows a very stringent driving times where you cannot ask the driver to run more than 8 hours. And if I'm talking about the team drive, that also we cannot ask them to run for more than 12 hours. I could be wrong in terms of number of daily team drive, but I think this is the number. Okay. And while we are building any system, we have to make sure that these things are considered. Another thing is weekend break. So we have to give a weekend break to the carrier, and how they operate in general is that the moment they reach to the moment that the weekend break is arrived or they have finished the number of hours for a day, they just stop. They don't care whether they're just 20 miles away from the destination. They just don't navigate anymore. So it was very important for us to make sure that we calculate the number of shipments accordingly, and we do not try to overpopulate the shipments in the circuit. So yeah, that is the different planning inputs which we have considered. Now, once we give these inputs from the planner, what OTM does, our algorithm which we have built for this, it's fully dependent on agents and SQL queries. What it does initially, so let's say while you starting a shipment, the first shipment of the circuit, it finds out how many remaining working hours that driver has for that day. So it is not always going to be the start of the day when the circuit is starting. So from that moment onwards, it's going to predict what is the number of hours remaining. At the same time, it's also going to check what is the time of arrival for the destination. So it is going to calculate how much time it's going to take for that arrival. Of course, we are using here maps as a distance and time calculation in OTM. So all of these shipments which we try to build, we are following here maps. For the dead distance also, we are keeping a 65 kilometer rule. So we are always trying to say system that, hey, you're going to run at 65 kilometers per hour. So that's it. Then we know the truck type. So of course, depending upon what type of shipment, so we can only combine same type of trucks into a circuit. So if you're running a FTL, it's going to be FTL across. You're not going to put a LTL in the way because it's not going to work. You want to have a full capacity. So fortunately, we do always have enough volumes to pick from. So yeah, we are putting the same type of trucks in the circuit. And the most important part here is the distance calculation between two shipments. So OTM tells you that this is the shipment between my source and destination. But OTM does not tell you that this is the distance between my destination and the next shipment source location. So that is one of the challenge which we had found. So by knowledge, we found that within OTM, you can have a table which calculates and contains all the distances between locations from the masters in terms of whatever gets calculated in the future, in the past for past shipments. But at the same time, we also took the data from planners who told us that this is the distance between different cities. And also we are mapping the newly built shipments back to this table so that you have a better database in terms of having the distance between two locations. Now this is one of the most important thing. So while these are all the different algorithm parameters and what system considers, the output is very simple. System shows you only one thing. It tells you that these are your routes depending upon the shipment you have selected first. This is the number of shipments and these are the shipments which you're going to continue for the whole week. So then the planner has to just do one thing. He simply click on the first shipment and he click and selects that I want to mark it as infinity. Immediately what system does, it just takes out all the shipments from the contracted carriers and combine them into the circuit. And all of that goes to that truck. So now you have just one circuit which is being run by your own truck and you're getting savings, all of this in just click of a button. So that's how much what system has done. Okay, so like I was telling, this is how our workbench looks like. We have tried to have few, so maybe I'll just take a minute and explain to you how much or what you're seeing on the screen. On the left side, you see two tabs, shipment, infinity shipment and infinity mark shipments. So the matter of interest for us is infinity shipments because infinity mark shipments are the shipments which is for visibility. Planners has already made a circuit out of them. But the first tab is where you're seeing the opportunities. So on the screen, which is not captured, unfortunately, on the back, you see, indicators in blue. Indicator in blue tells me that this shipment is already marked for infinity. So what planner has to do, on this screen, they get to see all the shipments. They do have a search screen, which is not here. They do have a OTM search screen where they fill the parameters in terms of source. And then they give more inputs like whether it's a team or single driver, like I was telling. And then they click on show next potential shipments, which is what's highlighted. The moment he does that, in the bottom, if you see, depending upon whether he's selecting a single or team, we have different pens. So let's say he selected a single driver, right? First and the third pane, if you see, next shipment and next to next shipment, right? So the moment he click on that button and tells me that show next shipments, system is gonna show him next two shipments which could be combined to the trip. Typically, this is number of shipments which we are finishing in a week. So that's how we have limited it here. Now let's say he's not just gonna see one route, he's gonna see multiple shipment combinations here. He can again choose and select the shipments in the next route, so you can cross mix them. Let's say once he's sure that this looks good, and he can take that assurance on the map which you see on the right side of the screen. So the moment you select any shipment, it's showing you the map. You select two shipments, it's showing you combined map. Once he's agreeing to what is being shown on the screen, he just clicks marks on infinity. The moment he does it, like I was telling, it simply takes away these shipments from the contracted carriers. It simply puts it back to the carrier, which is the contracted one for the infinity, the one who is renting a truck, and the driver. And it simply updates the cost of that shipment according to the cost logic, which is per day cost, which is a combination of two fairly simple maths. We are having per day cost for the truck, and depending upon whether it's a team or single driver, the rate of that driver. So combination of these two is becoming your per day shipment, and depending upon how much is the service time, we calculate the shipment's infinity cost, and that's what gets updated on the shipment. So that becomes a cost of all your shipment in the whole circuit. So yeah, like this is what we have done to achieve. Now this is where the whole process ends, and once he does it, that goes into the second tab, which is infinity mark shipments. There they can simply see like what has been the non-executed shipments as of now, which are not yet done, but they have been marked by infinity. So if at all they want to change anything into them on the runtime, let's say you are in middle of your circuit and your one of the driver gets sick, or one of the shipment is cancelled. So at their moment also you can always run this calculation and try to find a next shipment or next to next shipment from that particular time. Like you already have delivered one shipment, and next shipment got cancelled, so you can again find your circuit from there. That's why we given the second screen also. So yeah, with this the technical solution ends. Like I was talking about, what is this? Yeah, KPIs. So we spoke about how this whole process has been built, what were the objectives in mind, and the ultimate aim was to do the cost saving. So the first KPI which we have achieved out of it, we are making cost reduction. Business is tracking reductions in terms of euros, and also manual effort reduction from the planners. So we do have OTM reports which are being delivered to the like stakeholders on a weekly basis. We tell them these are the circuits we have built. These were the initial shipments. These are the built shipments from infinity. When I say built shipment, we have still taken the same shipments, but just updated the cost in the driver. So this is how much cost saving you're getting. So this is one of the KPI which is the most important. Other KPI includes we have achieved better utilization. So Unilever is not only committed towards cost saving or trying to fulfill the customers, but also is much focused upon carbon footprint reduction. That's one of the agenda across the year. So this also, like all the projects we are doing, it's always keeping in mind how much reduction you can do in terms of CO2. So this also, the moment you run your own trucks, your empty miles reduction is happening, and that's where you are doing the CO2 reduction also. So that's also there. Manual effort reduction, like I mentioned, it's also like planners now don't have to do all the Excel work. They just simply click and then they get the things done. So they can always focus that time which they were having in terms of executing this process, then now to managing this process, that if it is running on ground in a real time and in running in an expected way. And the last, to manage all of this, you do have reports. So yeah, we have given them some automated reports, and those are fairly simpler reports where we are just checking like what is the past, what is the future. We also run reports in terms of how much new circuits we have built, what are the new kind of shipments we have built, what are the new areas we have covered, and that all goes back to the master. So tomorrow if you are getting a new shipment from a new region, that master goes back to the system and you get a better bundling in future. So it somehow works in the ML. So it trains itself and it becomes a better version of it in the next bundle. So yeah, that's all from our side